to be healthy. Supplements are only recommended under a doctor's prescription, and if you really need it, maybe if you have a serious deficiency in something and you need to top up as quickly as possible, that's the time you can take supplements. Otherwise, stick to your balanced diet, a healthy diet, because remember, every morsel of food that gets into your mouth and gets into your system can and will affect the longevity and the quality of your life. This has been Self-Care Tips on Health and Nutrition.
The Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, through its State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action, in conjunction with its partners, would like to invite all Kenyans to the International Women's Day celebrations to be held at the Kenyatta International Convention Center on Thursday, the 2nd of March 2023. The chief guest will be His Excellency the President, Honorable Dr. William Ruto. The global theme of the event is Digit All, Innovations and Technology for Gender Equality. Come adorned in your best African wear and let's celebrate. Happy International Women's Day 2023.
The National Youth Service will hold its pass-out graduation ceremony on 3rd March 2023. His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, will be the guest of honor during the pass-out parade to be held at NYS Paramilitary Academy in Gilgil, Nakuru County. Follow the proceedings live on KBC Channel 1 on Friday, 3rd March 2023 from 10 a.m. NYS, Huduma kwa Taifa.
To get the pit as your skiza tune, dial *811*397#.
You may be in the pit. You do not see how you could get out. But the good news is that you do not have to get by yourself. The Most High God is about to lift you out. He's about to turn the medical report. He's about to free you. He's about to open new doors, bringing new opportunities, new relationships. The pit is not your destination. Get ready to rise.
To get the pit, dial *811*397#. *811*397#.
We attended an amazing album launch here, Java the Poet, at the Nairobi Gallery, man, called Business Biz album launch.
Ni mchezo wanasiasa kutufull, wanajua outcome si fun, environment imehang, legs kwa stool.
She looks like Cardi B, and she started calling herself the Kenyan Cardi B because, well, you guys said anafanana na Cardi B, so why not ride with it? And then there was also this other guy who calls himself the Kenyan Burna Boy. Now guess what? They have decided, since you guys have decided we look like superstars, how about we try to become superstars as well?
I'm the Kenyan Cardi B, TikTok, stand for leap.
More love, reflex, jobless, no stress, more love.
The second edition of the Kenya Theatre Awards went down last week at the Kenya National Theatre, a mix of old and new as theatre honored its best. The Kikuyu version of the play Ngahika Deda took home the Best Kikwetu Production Vernacular Shows Award.
I can say this with relative certainty that there is no award that means more to an artist than the award handed to him by his peers.
hello from wherever you are watching us in the continent of Africa and around the world. This is KBC Prime Edition coming to you live from Broadcasting House along Harry Thuku Road right here in the capital city of Nairobi, Kenya. Good evening. My name is Mboya. Our top stories tonight. Of Public Opinion, Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy ranked top in performance in a poll released by Infotrack. In the spotlight, State Department of Higher Education on the spot for allegedly diverting billions meant for public universities to private universities. Plus, tax rebates. Kenya Revenue Authority holds payment of tax refunds and orders an audit of tax refund claim. Our socials at KBC Channel on my Twitter handle at Tomboya24. Our sign language interpreter tonight is ever smiling Susan Thuku. Let's open our coverage with our lead story. The Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy has been ranked the top performing ministry in the Kenya Kwanza government in the last 100 days in office. That's according to a citizens' survey conducted by Infotrack. The Ministries of National Treasury as well as Economic Planning and Energy and also Petroleum were ranked the least performing ministries. Additionally, the pollsters indicate that Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki and Mining Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria as the best performing Cabinet Secretary and the least performing Cabinet Secretary, respectively. Ben Chumba opens our coverage on the Public Opinion Court report.
According to the latest poll by Infotrack, 62% of Kenyans feel the country is headed in the wrong direction, while 22% are of the view the country is headed in the right direction. However, 15% opine that the country is neither headed in the wrong direction nor the right direction.
But the least or the highest dissatisfaction is from Nyanza at 75%. Followed with a tie at western and eastern provinces at 66%.
High cost of living, high taxation by government, unemployment and poor governance were cited among the most pressing concerns that need to be addressed as a matter of priority.
We can lump them into two categories, with 48% are economical issues. So majority are economical. Then governance takes about 17%, with another 28% are social amenities, things to do with education, healthcare, water.
According to research, the overall performance of the Kenya Kwanza cabinet is below average, with a mean score of 45% in the last 100 days in office.
Out of 100, Kenyans have rated the 22 ministries at 45%, which we've translated to a D. So that D means they need to pull up, they need to do a lot. It's a red for us. There is need for urgent attention.
The Ministry of Information, Communication and Digital Economy and the Ministry of Roads and Transport, however, were ranked as the top performers at 54% and 50% respectively.
Ministry of Roads and Transport, they're getting a highest score of 54%. From coast, and it could be for obvious reasons, the return of port services to the coastal region.
On the other hand, National Treasury and Economic Planning and the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum were ranked the least performing ministries.
The rest of the ministries are within the D category. So only the two have C, 18 have a score of C, of D, and 2 have a score of E. Those ones need to pull up their socks according to Kenyans.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki, Education Cabinet Secretary Ezekiel Mashogu, Youth Affairs, Sports and Arts Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba were picked as the best performing Cabinet Secretaries. The least-ranked Cabinet Secretaries were Salim Vuria of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs, Florence Bore of Labour and Social Protection, and Rebecca Miano of East Africa Community, Arid and Semi-Arid Lands Development.
We can hypothesize that the visibility, the media visibility that are given to some ministers may make them a top of mind or may make them being associated as performers. There are those that are always in the media, seen in one region or another, or tackling one issue or another. So then Kenyans associate that with performance. But those that are a bit docile, or those that are not seen always, they ranked the least. So would it be a personality assessment? And we say yes.
The survey was conducted between 21st to 24th February 2023, where 2,149 people were interviewed across 47 counties. Ben Chumba, Prime Edition.
A pollster there indicating that Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki emerging as the best performing Cabinet Secretary. Of course, he took over from Fred Matiang'i, who was the then Cabinet Secretary under Uhuru Kenyatta's government. And in fact, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, has now written to the head of Public Service, Felix Koskei, and he is seeking certified copies of former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i's wealth declaration. The EACC Chief Executive, Twalib Mbarak, was said to be investigating the former Cabinet Secretary and would use that data as evidence. Through a letter dated Monday, February the 27th, 2023, and signed by Mbarak, EACC indicates that it had upped its investigations and wishes to request certified copies of declaration of income, assets, and liability forms for the years 2012 all the way to 2022, and that includes the initial as well as final declarations. The development comes days after the Directorate of Criminal Investigations summoned the former Interior Cabinet Secretary to its headquarters to shed light on the purported raid by police at his current residence. Matiang'i, however, snubbed the summons. Of course, we are keeping our finger on the pulse of that story. Let's now get the latest from Parliament. On the State Department of the Higher Education is on the spot for stifling public universities by channeling billions of shillings to private universities in the guise of financing education for government-sponsored students. The National Assembly Public Investment Committee on Governance and Education put to task Higher Education Principal Secretary Beatrice Muganda over the rationale of placing government-sponsored students in private universities when the public universities had the capacity to accommodate them. And as our parliamentary reporter Gishuki Washira reports, over 12 billion shillings disbursed to private universities are yet to be audited, believe it or not.
That is a petition.
The National Assembly Watchdog Committee on Governance and Education, chaired by Jack Wamboka, invited the State Department of Higher Education and Research, the Higher Education Loans Board, and the University Fund to engage in modalities to enhance the quality of university education. The committee taking issue with the ministry for continuing to place government-sponsored students in private universities despite the availability of capacity at public universities. This has seen billions of shillings sent to private universities to finance the education of the students at the expense of public universities.
It may not be tenable, however, our hands are tied by the law. And any decision that is not guided by the law will attract a litigation.
But I have not seen anywhere
But that law compels you to share. That in the event that today you decide to put all students in public universities, that law, there's nowhere the law says it's an illegal thing.
The government started allowing admission of government-sponsored students in private universities in 2014 due to the insufficient capacities of public universities. The number of students qualifying, however, has since been on the decline, thereby matching the capacity in public universities. MPs are now mulling over amending the law to bar the government from sponsoring students in private universities.
If we have this money in public universities, it will help our universities to not face the challenges we keep reading about, Egerton University, Moi University, and the rest.
We are talking of, bringing back the glory for our public universities, and the same people are the ones who are killing public universities in the interest of private universities.
In the last 5 financial years, the government has disbursed over 12 billion shillings to private universities, an amount that is yet to be audited. The Watchdog Committee now wants a special audit done on all funds that have been disbursed to all private universities since the year 2018. Reporting from Parliament, I'm Geshoke Washira.
Well, that story brings us to our first break right here on Prime Edition. Do stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Kuna hizi kampuni zenye zinajua mali niko, kitu nimekula breko, kitu ninasema sahi, kitu nitakula next week on Thursday, pesa niko nazo kwa account, siblings wangu, the list is endless. Na mnajuaje hii information? Kwani mnani stock?
Lakini nikuulize, kabla ya kupress allow, ulijiuliza hii information inatumiwa kwa njia gani? Kabla ya kuallow, hakikisha umesoma terms and conditions.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na ofisi ya Data Protection Commissioner.
Nini? Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000. Aulali. Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
The National Youth Service will hold its pass-out graduation ceremony on 3rd March 2023. His Excellency the President Dr. William Samoei Ruto will be the guest of honor during the pass-out parade to be held at NYS Paramilitary Academy in Gilgil, Nakuru County. Follow the proceedings live on KBC Channel 1 on Friday, 3rd March 2023 from 10 a.m. NYS, huduma kwa taifa.
Welcome back to this live broadcast. Our socials at KBC Channel on my Twitter handle at Mboya24. Moving on, traders from Kamkunji, Nyamakima, Kirinyaga, as well as River Road took to the streets Tuesday to protest an influx of Chinese retail wholesale traders in the market. The traders who unsuccessfully sought audience with the deputy president want local Chinese business regulated. Here's that report.
They came out in large numbers. Hundreds of household and electronic goods dealers from Nyamakima, Kamukunji, Kirinyaga and River Road took to the streets to demonstrate against what they termed as an intrusion of foreign traders in the market. Carrying placards and blowing whistles, The protesters claim the Chinese traders had taken over the retail market, a move that has slashed their profits.
Kuna kitu inaitwa chain of distribution. Na producer anafaa apatie distributor apatie wholesaler apatie retailer na yeye auzie hawkers wapatie mwananchi wauzie mwananchi. Sasa tunauliza kama Mchina atakuwa manufacturer, akuje akuwe distributor, akuje akuwe wholesaler, akuje akuwe retailer, akuje akuwe hawker, Wakenya wataenda wapi?
Those who spoke to KBC are petitioning the government to only allow Chinese businessmen to be involved in manufacturing. On the claim that the prices are exorbitant, the traders instead blamed the government over the high loan rates.
Ile mahesabu tuko nayo ni 30,000. Hizo maduka zetu, kila duka imeandika an average of 10 people. Ukipiga hiyo mahesabu, ni watu wangapi wanaenda nyumbani? Wengi. Ni watu 3 wanaenda nyumbani.
The appeal to speak to the deputy president was however not granted. The demonstrations come in a wake of uproar over the establishment of China Square, a retail mall merchandise along Thika Road. Zainab Said, Prime Edition.
Those demonstrations coming on the back of that temporary closure of the China Square. China Square being a major store along Thika Superhighway that offers various goods at highly discounted rates. Now, let's look at an item here, an election petition. The election of Makueni Governor Mutula Kilonzo Jr. has been upheld. While ruling on the petition, High Court Judge Justice John Nyabuto said the complaint failed to present sufficient evidence to overturn Mutula's win. The court has also upheld the election of Wajir North Member of Parliament Ibrahim Abdi Saneh. In its ruling, the court said the petitioner did not furnish the court with enough proof to show that the election was tampered with.
Governors Mutula Kilonzo Jr., Wajir North Member of Parliament Ibrahim Abdi Saneh, and Area Women Representative Doris Donya Aburi's win have been upheld by the courts. Former gubernatorial candidate Dr. Patrick Musimba suffered a blow when the High Court Judge Justice John Nyabuto ruled in Mutula Kilonzo's favor. Justice Nyabuto saying Musimba failed to present enough evidence to disqualify Mutula's win.
Mutula Kilonzo Jr. was validly elected and gazetted at the Governor Makueni County for that the petitioner shall pay a cost of the petition assessed and payable at 1 million shillings to the first and second respondents jointly and in equal amounts, and 2 million shillings to the third respondent.
In Kisii, High Court Judge has dismissed an election petition by 2 voters against Area Woman Representative Doris Donya Aburi, citing failure to meet the threshold of standard proof on the allegations. Justice Mutuku, who delivered the judgment virtually, ruled claims by Job Nyabuto and Ezekiel Okenye, the petitioners, over irregularities, non-compliance, voter bribery, and violence were not proved.
Kwa hivyo leo niko na furaha na kitu nitahakikishia watu wetu wa Kisii County, agenda number 1 maji, hatuna maji. Issues zangu kwa watu wetu wa Kisii ni maji na nimeangalia kupitia kwa ngafu.
Finally, High Court Judge Justice Ruben Nyakundi has upheld the victory of Wajir North Member of Parliament Ibrahim Abdi Saneh in the August election. Justice Nyakundi ruled that the petitioner and former MP Ahmed Abdi Salan did not present enough evidence that the results had been tampered with.
So it's a pleasure for me this afternoon. I'm renewed, energized to hit the ground and make sure that I deliver on whatever I have promised for the people of Wajir North. It's time to bond, time to move forward and disapprove, not out of hate, but based on work.
Now, that debate, the LGBTQ debate, the one following the Supreme Court ruling, giving a thumbs up to the registration of LGBTQ plus body, that debate is continuing. It's an emotive subject, of course, drawing varied reactions, particularly among the political and also roping in the religious leaders. And as that debate rages, a section of Kenyans are tonight appealing to the President William Ruto, to pronounce himself on this matter. Why? So that it brings down the temperatures of the brainstorm. Our reporter Ruth Mboya went out to get a sense of what people are thinking, and this is the report that she filed.
Tuesday afternoon in the streets of Nairobi, the hustle and bustle of normal city life was abuzz amid the brainstorm over the Supreme Court ruling, giving a nod for the registration of gay rights and lesbians' body. Whereas political and religious leaders have been vocal on the matter, it was time to pick Wanjiku's thought on the emotive subject.
Mambo kama haya ikubaliki hapa, na rais wetu lazima pia ongelee hili jambo. Hivyo ndivyo ilikuwa Sodom na Gomora ikaangamizwa. Na hivyo tukiendelea hivi, hata sisi Kenya hatutakosa kuangamizwa.
Kila mtu asimame kivyake, watoto wako uwaonyeshe njia ambayo inatakikana, na pia wewe usimame in the right way.
Those who spoke to appear to be reading from the same script as their leaders, stemming the decision of the Apex Court as a push by Western countries to destabilize existing cultural norms.
Church mkuu na hao wenzake wanastahili wajiulize, wakiweka hao wanawake wawili pamoja, watazaa mtoto ama watatoa mbegu? Ama wanaume wawili wakiwekwa pamoja, watatoa mbegu?
Kenyans speaking also on the ruling also took issue with legislators for allegedly failing to prioritize the discussion in parliament.
Tumewachagua mtupeleke kwa njia iliyo bora, lakini saa hii mnatuweka kwa mashimo. Watoto wetu tutawalea aje? Tunauthi Mungu na tutasiti kuchapa vichapo. Mnaona mvua inyeshi. Ni si tabia zenye tunafanya. Kwa hivyo tafadhali tunaomba wakubwa, wale wanaongoza hii nchi, wakuwe na hekima ya Mwenyezi Mungu.
But now what we are trying to see here is something that is not even protective for us and as youths and even as Kenyans at large.
It was the same situation in Bungoma County. Residents are unhappy with the decision, saying it will set a bad precedence and expose the country to immoral practices.
Vitu ya ushenzi kabisa, tutakataa hiyo vitu. Hata kiafrika I make sense.
Sasa hiyo ni kama kumaliza mambo ya kusaana. Hiyo maneno hatutaki. Sio ipaki tu kwa wasungu, sisi wa Afrika waje tuoane vile tunaoanana.
This as Migori County Bishop's Accord condemned the Apex Court, appealing for President William Ruto to issue an executive order to rescind the decision.
This one is coming against the expectation of God Almighty, who is having the powers. We are the Esther of this country. We are the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. We shall say no. It doesn't matter what happens.
On Friday, 24th February 2023, the Supreme Court of Kenya, under a 5-judge bench, ruled that the LGBTQ community have the right to association. It is clear that the Supreme Court decision has irked many, while many are shy to speak about the subject matter publicly. It is evident that the debate will be a subject for discussion for months to come. Ruth Mboya reporting for Prime Edition from the county of Nairobi.
Well, it's not only the voice of the people on the streets. There's a section of leaders from Mandera North who are now calling on the president to declare the ongoing drought situation a national disaster. The leaders say that for 5 consecutive seasons, rains have failed in that region, and that exposes the residents to untold suffering. Timothy Kipnusu reports.
Fear of human casualties looms in the villages of Bambo and Warangara Lafe constituency.
Residents are on the brink of death with no source of livelihood left in the area. They are now forced to migrate into neighboring countries of Ethiopia and Somalia in search of water and food. They are now calling on the government and development partners to intervene, even as they urge the president to declare a drought situation as a national disaster.
Animals are dying in mass and people's lives are in danger. Barns have dried up. Wells have, because of the 24 hours running, have broken down.
We are in the midst of a very biting drought. I ask His Excellency William Samoei Ruto to declare this drought a national disaster.
In the meantime, Garissa Governor Nathif Jama is now calling on the president to personally visit arid and semi-arid land counties affected by the biting drought in order to see the true situation on the ground.
Big issues. One, not only the drought, but as you have heard, we also have IDPs, drought IDPs, pastoral dropouts from the neighboring countries.
This is what we're doing on short-term solutions. We need a long-term solution for the drought.
Garissa, just like the neighboring counties in northeastern, did not receive adequate rainfall during the last October-November short rain season. Kenya Red Cross says close to 400,000 people are in dire need of relief food in the area. Elsewhere, residents in Turkana County are a worried lot after River Takwel, the only source of water that they have depended on for years, dried up.
Disaster.
They say the seasonal river has been resourceful in their day-to-day life as it helps in supporting farming, particularly irrigation.
Hii milaga imewahi kauka, I think 15 years or 18 years kutoka ikauke. Sasa imerudi. Mimi kiangazi iko Turkana mbaya sana.
Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
Now, the Kenya Revenue Authority has halted payment of tax refunds amounting to 610 billion shillings with immediate effect to pave way to an audit of the tax refund claims. Kenya Revenue Authority Chairman Anthony Mboya says that decision to suspend payments is aimed at enhancing ongoing processes related to the payment of tax refunds, exemptions, and waivers. Here's that report.
Kenya Revenue Authority Chairman Anthony Mboya says over the past 5 years, KRA has granted tax relief and incentives worth 610 billion shillings. He says the tax agency has made a decision to suspend payment of tax reliefs to pave the way for KRA to audit and enhance the tax relief processes and procedures. The new suspension of tax relief payments has also affected zero-rated goods and services. According to Mboya, the suspension of tax reliefs follows concerns from taxpayers, initiating the need to restructure rules and procedures governing tax exemptions, as well as a review of tax reliefs to increase the impact of tax expenditure on economic growth. The audit process is also expected to help seal revenue leakage loopholes and enhance tax collections to support the government's development agenda. Mboya says the new reforms being undertaken by KRA are part of an aggressive revenue mobilization plan aimed at enhancing revenue collection and redirecting resources to finance priority growth supporting programs. Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
Now, when Kenya experienced her first ever attempted military coup, you remember it took place in 1982, a merciless swoop happened within and also outside of the Kenya Air Force barracks. Every military officer was presumed suspect until proven otherwise. Colonel Karumba Waithaka, now retired, was one of those netted and detained for 3 months. Nisi Imano visited that retired colonel and filed the following report for this week's episode of Military Tales.
At 3 a.m. Sunday, the 1st of August 1982, a group of soldiers from the Kenya Air Force took over Eastleigh Air Base in the outskirts of Kenya's capital city, Nairobi. In efforts to contain the situation, the government at that time arrested and detained majority of the Air Force soldiers. The entire force was at that time considered guilty until proven otherwise. Eutychus Karumba Waithaka was among those arrested on that day.
Fortunately, it happened when I was on leave in Nyeri. I couldn't get back and I had to surrender myself to the police. So we were brought to Kamiti prison, and it's at night. And we were all put in the maximum prison jail and forgotten.
Waithaka had wanted to join the military from his childhood, but his interest rose exponentially during his days as a student at Kagumo High School.
When I was there, I started seeing aircraft, military aircraft flying over our school. And I kept saying, someday I will get into these military aircraft.
On completion of high school in 1970, he qualified to pursue medicine at the University of Nairobi, but chose to move to the city in search of job opportunities.
One cousin took me in. Unfortunately, or fortunately, he used to stay in Mathare, just next to the Air Force.
Eventually, Waithaka's luck came in 1974.
So I actually tried in 1973. I went to FTC and I was not successful. Then, and I was told that it's my toe finger that was bad. But I didn't give up. The following year, 1974, and my toe was the same. I tried again and I got in.
Eutychus Waithaka joined the military in 1974 and was commissioned in 1975 by His Excellency the late President Jomo Kenyatta.
I've got a parchment which is signed by him. I consider it to be a very important document.
Waithaka then joined the Laikipia Air Base Ground Attack Squadron.
I flew the Strike Master. That Strike Master, then the fleet was then sold later on, and those were phased off.
He then applied to be transferred back to Moi Air Base Isili to the Air Transport Squadron.
And I was engaged in cargo during the early years, and soldiers, to transport soldiers from here, including the army.
Waithaka was then assigned to fly VIP aircrafts and flew the late President Arap Moi.
In transport, you start with category D, which is just carrying cargo. You can't carry a soul. And then from there, I progressed to carrying passengers. That's category C. And then B and A are for the VIPs.
It was after the attempted coup of 1982 and Waithaka's subsequent detention and release that changed his mind about his future in the Defense Force.
And I must say that that is my first time I started real thinking about what I can do when I left the Air Force, or if something ever happened.
Shortly after the coup, Waithaka was displaced.
The headquarters needed to reorganize the Air Force, but then setting it up in structures, functional structures, like should we have technical wings, should we have flying wings, supply wings. That was redone, and I was one of the team members of the structures.
Waithaka found himself in administration, and although he knew his place was in the flying of aircrafts, he was reluctant to leave his new administrative duties.
I could see I'm going to leave gaps, and making sure that the Air Force is based well, founded well, was also an important duty, because you're actually doing something good for flying.
After 23 years, he voluntarily resigned from the military.
My interest was always to fly transport. Now here I am being a commanding officer who sits only in the office. Really is because I wanted to get back to strict aviation duties.
He then went ahead to be the CEO of Kenya Association of Air Operators.
During my stay as the CEO, we made sure that in the regulations we established a dispute resolving organization. I helped resolve over 15 cases that had been stuck.
Colonel Eutychus Waithaka has a lot in his bag of achievements in the 49 going 50 years he has been in the aviation world. Top on that list would be his participation in the founding of the first ever Kenyan air park, the Ole Air Park in Kajiado County. Reporting from Karen in Nairobi County, I'm Nisi Emano.
The Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action, through its State Department for Gender and Affirmative Action, in conjunction with its partners, would like to invite all Kenyans to the International Women's Day celebrations to be held at the Kenyatta International Convention Center on Thursday, the 2nd of March 2023. The chief guest will be His Excellency the President, Honorable Dr. William Ruto. The global theme of the event is Digit All, Innovations and Technology for Gender Equality. Come adorned in your best African wear and let's celebrate. Happy International Women's Day 2023.
What's this? You want to lose me again?
Why are you wearing the same t-shirt?
Riding a motorbike on the highway? I might like this job a lot, but I don't want to kill myself for it.
Did you tell him?
Tell him what?
You said you wanted to tell Harvey the truth. Did you tell him? You can help me.
Maybe I can help you.
I listened to you and took action.
Well, good for you. Then what? You want to play with me? Huh? You dare leave me? Get over here. Do you hear me? Ugh.
Now time to look at the day's business.
Thank you, Tom. Of course, time to get the latest in the world of business. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, on this last day of February 2023, the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics has announced that inflation has risen to a 3-month high of 9.2%, driven by costlier food items. Of course, inflation is the rate of increase in commodity prices. Now, moving on to other news, the National Assembly has approved the first supplementary budget that, among others, avails 15 billion shillings for the subsidized fertilizer program and 22 billion shillings for settling arrears owed to road contractors. While debating the estimates, some legislators called on the government to reintroduce subsidies on the basic commodities such as fuel to reduce the cost of living.
That this House also approves what we saw as the right thing to do, that we have reinstated back 10 billion Kenya shillings, Mr. Speaker, that will go purposely into the payments of pending bills of the ongoing roads projects. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, we have been able to provision, through the supplementary estimates, an additional 22 billion Kenya shillings that will go into making sure that the contractors go back to site.
Therefore, the reduction of 300 billion in these books, and the chair of the budget committee is here, he can confirm it is a fact that this budget has been cut by over 300 billion shillings. Why not for the bad manners of the 223 payments that now John Buddy wants to belittle and say it is talk? It is not just talk. Figures are speaking here. And therefore, let us not defend the indefensible. Let us not defend
order. Report, the same report is reading is talking of only 130 billion spent under Article 223. The total. Both the previous regime and the current regime, including the office of the DP, have spent 130 billion. For heaven's sake, that is not 300 billion shillings. So the question is, even if that is what distorted your pledge and promise that you told the people of Kenya with flowery language, of 300 billion, then you should tell us where 170 billion is. You have not succeeded in reducing the budget with 300 billion as you promised Kenyans, and that is why I was saying we must hold leaders to account.
2023 and Roman 6 further makes the policy resolutions contained in the second schedule to the order paper. Honorable members, as men of that opinion say aye. Aye. As men of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it.
And the Central Bank Deputy Governor nominee, Dr. Susan Koech, has pledged to reduce interest rates to a single-digit figure if Parliament endorses her nomination. During her vetting, Susan told legislators that her main agenda, if approved by Parliament, will be to bring down the cost of credit, streamline the interbank money market, and create more buffers for the shilling.
Dr. Susan Koech, nominee for the position of Central Bank Deputy Governor, today appeared before a joint sitting of the National Assembly's Departmental Committee on Finance and Economic Planning and the Senate's Standing Committee on Finance and Budget. Dr. Koech, whose net worth is 370 million shillings, pledged to focus on lowering lending rates by working towards reducing the benchmark interest rates from the current 8.7% to 5% or below.
What happens, direct question, what happens if we do what other growing economies are doing to maintain the base lending rate below 5%? What will happen?
The joint committee we have here, and so the National Assembly have an opportunity to ensure that they do the proper legislations so that our Kenyan people can be able to have proper interest rates of below 10%, or to say single digits.
She said if approved, she would also push for more mergers and acquisition in the banking industry.
Now, because with more mergers and acquisitions, we will be sure that we will have an enhanced balance sheet, number one. Number two, operational costs will go down. And then number three, there will be the aspect.
She believes that fiscal consolidation is the way to go to manage the public debt and building buffers through concessional loans to support the shilling.
Spending a lot of money in repayment of this debt, that is the principal and interest. My question is, as an advisor and fiscal agent of the government, what fiscal and monetary intervention will you adopt to address this issue if approved?
On the fiscal side is fiscal consolidation to ensure that, we manage our revenue so that we have better revenue streams, and then we manage the issue of the large, big debt, huge debt that we currently have. Secondly, is possibly to ensure that we manage the exchange rate. And how we manage the exchange rate is through ensuring that, one, we have buffers. Our forex reserve buffers have now come down to about 3.84 of import cover. We can be able to manage that by the government getting in concessional loans.
Parliament has about 14 days to vet her nomination. Wairimu Jenga for Prime Edition.
And the government has identified the leather, textiles, dairy, pharmaceuticals and automotive subsectors as key focus areas to accelerate the growth of the manufacturing sector. Kenya targets to increase the contribution of the manufacturing sector to the GDP from the current 7.2% to 20% by the year 2030.
The manufacturing sector's contribution to the economy has averaged 11% in the past decade. However, there is growing concern over the sector's dip in output. The manufacturing sector's contribution to gross domestic product stood at 7.2% in 2021, down from 7.6% in 2020.
So what is this that will change for us to get a different trajectory northwards?
The dip was attributed to, among others, coronavirus disruptions and impact of the Russia-Ukraine war, factors that disrupted local and global supply chains.
The manufacturing priority agenda gives proposals
as we have already heard, to address these challenges and support the government's agenda to uplift economic conditions of Kenya.
Manufacturers have rolled out a 20 by 30 strategy whose focus is on increasing the competitiveness of locally made goods, export-led growth, SME development, as well as enhancing value addition to agricultural produce.
And it is for this reason that the government has prioritized the following value chains due to their potential in creating jobs for our youth and women: leather and leather products, textile, dairy, edible oils, tea, construction and building materials, automotive and pharmaceutical.
The manufacturers have renewed calls on policymakers to ensure a predictable tax regime to support the manufacturing value chain.
For us to be able to compete in the global marketplace with Chinese, with Americans, with everybody in the world, we have to make sure our market is competitive to produce, from taxation point of view, from power point of view, from a soft infrastructure, that is policy, from our physical infrastructure, and the hardware infrastructure is there.
Manufacturing is known world over as a creator of jobs due to the value chains it involves. To drive Kenya's industrial growth, all counties have been tasked with setting up county aggregation industrial parks. Regina Manyara reporting for Prime Edition.
And the government is considering legislative reforms and amendments for the coffee subsector to end the systemic issues that have been eating into farmers' earnings. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says wrong marketing strategy, redundant institutions and brokers in the value chain has weakened the subsector over time, and interventions will be implemented to uplift the value chain.
Coffee prices on the Nairobi Coffee Exchange in the last week ranged between $177 and $340 per 50 kilo bag, a rebound after record low prices in recent weeks. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua says, despite this, coffee farmers will benefit the least from such price hikes. Due to this, the Deputy President says he has engaged production and marketing experts to reanalyze the coffee value chain and improve wherever necessary. He said farmers benefiting should be at the apex of any policies passed for the sector. Furthermore, Deputy President notes the prolonged chains from production to sale gates are not adding value, and farmers will be consolidated, and their views will be used to make necessary structural amendments. Hibak Said for Prime Edition.
Now, regional development authorities have been challenged to explore public-private partnerships to implement projects in a new plan by the government aimed at reducing reliance on exchequer funding. Principal Secretary in the State Department for Arid, Semi-Arid Lands and Regional Development, Idris Dokota, said the regional authorities are also expected to focus on rehabilitation of key water catchment areas in light of the drought that has adversely affected water towers.
Speaking at the Coastal Development Authority's headquarters in Mombasa after inaugurating the new board of directors, the Principal Secretary said the government is encouraging regional development authorities to pursue public-private partnerships to implement projects that impact communities in their areas of jurisdiction.
So looking at the new dispensation, that is 2010 constitution, then RDAs look actually misplaced. So we are also in the process of working on RDA bill that has gone through its first reading in Parliament.
Dokota cited the 800 million Kenyan shillings integrated project by the Italian government to rehabilitate roads and other infrastructure in Malindi, Kilifi County, which is a partnership with the Coast Development Authority. The project involves the construction of roads, irrigation, fisheries, and education.
The plan is, one of the plans that we have is actually coming up with PPP, that is public-private partnership programs, to actually enhance resource that will help us generate or have more programs and projects along our areas of jurisdiction.
Dokota challenged regional development authorities in key water catchment areas to urgently focus on rehabilitation to stop the drying up of dams and other water sources. Andrew Kero for Prime Edition.
And that's about it for the business news this evening. Of course, sports news is coming up with Karen Kibet. Prime Edition continues after this short break. Stay with us.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2,000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
The National Youth Service will hold its pass-out graduation ceremony on 3rd March 2023. His Excellency the President, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, will be the guest of honor during the pass-out parade to be held at NYS Paramilitary Academy in Gilgil, Nakuru County. Follow the proceedings live on KBC Channel 1 on Friday, 3rd March 2023 from 10 a.m. NYS, huduma kwa taifa.
Kinothe ameniambia unanitafuta. Okay.
Mimi sijui mother. Ni maswali tu anajua kuuliza. Sijui inakufanya ufilaje, unaenda wapi? Is the sky blue? Mimi alinichosha juu.
How dare you? How dare you after I've brought you this far?
Unaonaje?
Kitu cha muhimu ni safety ya Melissa. Huyo ni project 2, she will soon move on to something new. I know my daughter.
Unamaanisha nini? Ziggy, do not tell me that you've been investigating these people after I specifically told you not to.
Sasa ilikuwa nikae tu.
Yes!
A very good evening to you. I do hope you're holding up well. Thank you for keeping it KBC Prime Edition. It's now time for us to take a look at what's making headlines in the world of sports. My name is Karen Kibet. Now, the Kenya national Kabaddi junior team began the second edition of the Junior World Kabaddi Championship on a losing note after going down 39-56 to Iraq in Iran. The loss was a blow to the Kenyan juniors who were looking to impress the global event, which ends on the 4th of next month. The loss came just hours after Uganda narrowly suffered a 42-20 loss to Chinese Taipei in the opening match of the day. 12 teams are competing in the tournament, including India, Georgia, Thailand and Nepal. Kenya is pooled in Group B with Iraq and Palestine. The tournament is being held in Iran for the second successive time, with the hosts winning the inaugural edition. India are making their debut this year. Betting firm Mozart Bet has been unveiled as the title sponsor of the Football Kenya Federation Cup for the next 3 years. The deal, worth 60 million shillings, will see the gaming firm spend 20 million per annum beginning with this year's edition, which enters the round of 32 this weekend.
The deal, worth 60 million shillings, will see the gaming firm spend 20 million shillings per annum beginning with this year's edition.
Help our FKF to organize a competition, to be in the good position to attract more and more people, the clubs and all those things, because we know that of course sports not only in Kenya, it's across all Africa. It's difficult regarding the sponsorship.
The sponsorship will see teams' expenses including travel, venue and accommodation covered.
Owing that the league doesn't have a sponsor, the NSL doesn't have a sponsor, the WPL doesn't have a sponsor. So this cup is the only FKF asset that has attracted sponsorship. And we hope that through what Mozart is doing, even at very difficult times, because if you look at what's happening on the betting industries, that there are issues of taxes and how these taxes are applied.
Winners of the tournament will be awarded 2 million shillings, while first and second runners-up will walk away with 1 million shillings and 750,000 shillings, with the fourth place finisher receiving 500,000 shillings. The winner of the cup earns a slot to represent Kenya in CAF Confederations Cup matches.
Boost to the league. We believe that for the tournament, the team will have a lot of morale and be competitive, because it's a matter for them to come and play, not to look for other financial constraints which are affecting most of the club. That I believe it will be a very good tournament.
Teams are undergoing a lot of challenges, especially in terms of finances, and Mozart coming on board, I think is going to ease up some of the challenges for the teams.
Gor Mahia are the defending champions and are set to face Kibera Soccer in round of 32 fixture on 4th of March. Bernard Okumu, Primetime Edition.
Thank you, Okumu, for that report. Moving on, 8 gamers will vie for the ultimate ticket to represent Kenya at the E-League One Tour Finals in Paris, France. The 8 players qualified from last weekend's preliminary round held at Alliance Francaise in Nairobi. Among the players in contention for the Paris trip include Dennis Musyoki, last year's finalist George Kimaru, Eric Ngige, Harry Thuku, and Lennox Kuloba, among others. Last year's winners, Luonyi Tit, was among the big names that crashed out after losing to upcoming gamer Adrian Kariuki. The 8 players will play from the quarterfinal stage, with the winners advancing to the final, where the ultimate champion will head to France for the global final scheduled for 13th May this year. Thank you for staying with us. Those are all the sports stories we had for you right here at the KBC Sports News Desk. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, with more sports news. I'm now joined by my colleagues Tom Mboya and Betty Kiptum.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Marakwet Express, for that. You know, Kabaddi is one of those games that I really like. I was hoping you would pronounce it well. Kabaddi.
Kabaddi. I said Kabaddi.
Huh?
I have very little understanding of that game.
By the way.
It's a contact game that not many people understand, but the moment you get to understand it, it's very interesting.
Yeah. Even cricket, I remember there was a time we went all the way to, semi-final. But if you went to the streets and asked the people in the country whether they understand, how cricket goes. Very few.
Understand the game.
Few. Yeah, understanding the
Or
rules.
even have an idea that we were once, participants of that game.
No, we went all the way to, I remember when Odumbe was captaining the team, we went all the way to the semi-final. But let me ask you this before we go. There's this question of cyberbullying. There's a section of women leaders who are pushing for those laws to be strengthened. So I want to ask Kiptum, is it a gender-based, is it appropriate to refer to it as gender-based violence? Have you been a victim yourself, by the way?
Thankfully not. But I think that women, even the statistics really show that women suffer more of cyberbullying than men. That is not to say that the effects for men are any less. But for women, sometimes you find the issue is not even about their femininity, but it is their femininity that is attacked. So I think
by the way,
the laws should be a bit more stringent, not only make it a gender-based violence issue, but really make it a crime that people need to pay for when they attack someone online.
I was involved in some training of women leaders, those who were vying for political office, and one of the things that kept coming out was those attacks, online attacks. And there was a feeling that, you know, it affects even their drive to want to vie for political office. I don't know, Marakwet, wewe umekuwa victim ya hii maneno ya cyberbullying.
Yeah, keyboard warriors say whatever they want at whatever time. So I think everyone has been a victim in one way or the other. It just depends with how you choose